Sancho to score. No mistakes this time.
That is a rocket.
Royce out. Another fantastic goal by Marco Royce. Haaland's volley is beautiful beyond compare.
Das Wunder von Dortmund bauen wir von Isco an Götze.
Needs to lay it off. We're going to shot away. Oh, what a goal!
Welcome back to Dortmund Dispatch. We have a little bit of a different episode today. My name's Brian, for those of you who are just joining us for the first time on this episode. I'm stepping in for Eli for this episode. We're doing a segment called The Fan Corner, which some of you who might have listened to the pod for a longer time now might have listened to our episode last year, where we covered the Brooklyn Borussian fan club. This time around, we're covering the Borussian Triangle, which is headed up by my good friend and our co-host today, Joey Meyer. Joey, how are you doing?
I am doing great. Much better than the U.S. men's national team, but, I am in a really good mood because I just watched a pretty exciting penalty shootout between Colombia and Switzerland. I almost said between Colombia and Kobel, but the point is Kobel he showed up big time in this match and made a big save in that penalty shootout. So really happy to see him progress. And otherwise, I've just been watching tons of football. I always get World Cup fever, so happy to be back on the pod.
100%. And alongside you, we have a very special guest today. Andy, also from the Borussian Triangle, also the host of a Charlotte FC podcast called The Crowncast. Andy, pleasure to have you today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, gentlemen. Thrilled to be here after listening to you guys for a few months now. Brian, you don't even know this, but the first Borussia Dortmund podcast I listened to over the years was the BVB podcast. So I got to hear you come on with Jacob and Carver all those times. and little did I know, years later, I would be sitting down to talk to you about Borussia Dortmund, Borussian Triangle, and all those good things. So honored to be joining you guys.
Oh, awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah, shout out to Jake and Carver, good friends of the pod, and shout out BVB pod. Gone but not forgotten. I feel like it's the second time we've referenced them in our own episode recently, but always, like I said, gone but not forgotten. Alrighty, so let's get right into it. So I guess to start off this segment, I guess we could kind of start with you, Andy, in the sense of like, how did you become a Dortmund fan? Let's dive a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah, I've been unpeeling the layers of this onion with myself and others over the last few days as I tried to backtrack. So I'm going to have to start this off by being very annoying in saying that my football fandom started with Liverpool when I was a kid.
Okay.
In 2005. I was about 13 then. That's how I got into them. Followed them when I could, obviously, until NBC got the rights to Premier League coverage in like 2013-ish range. It was tough to watch every game. So big budding soccer fan, but couldn't necessarily watch week in and week out until that happens in college. My friends have always called me Mr. Sports. Like I'll watch anything, baseball, hockey, both types of football, whatever it may be. I even watch cricket from time to time. So I'm all over the map. But I really just became obsessed with soccer, football, whatever you want to call it, as my number one in college through that Liverpool lens. And then because of that, because I was like, I can't just watch this one league. I can't just have one team to follow. I never wanted to become this guy, but I become the stereotypical American soccer fan who's like, I've got my English team, and I've got my Bundesliga team, and then I've got my MLS team. It was terrible. Men in Blazers and Roger Bennett did a survey a few years ago where they surveyed American soccer fans to figure out what the average American soccer fan looked like. And apparently the average one had an average of 3 teams, their local team, and then 2 European teams. And I was like, no, I've become that guy. It's terrible. I hate it. So I have a lot of
We don't judge you here.
Yeah, I have a lot of great shame that comes with it, but I think acknowledging that shame is what makes it, at least acceptable. Like, people don't kick me out of bars or things. Where Dortmund comes in, I trace this back. And this is funny timing in talking about this after the events of last night as we record this and the U.S. men's national team losing. But I read a Deadspin article by Patrick Redford, and this is dated September 6th, 2016. The title is Christian Pulisic is Already Here. This article only references Dortmund once. It says, so much talk around Christian Pulisic is in the future tense. How good could he be? How soon will he be ready to play every week for Dortmund? When should he look to move to a first team elsewhere? So that, and Liverpool having, I think in the previous spring, played a very exciting Europa League tie with Dortmund that saw Jurgen Klopp return to face his former team. They kept putting nuggets in my brain that, like, this is a team that you're going to end up like supporting as you look for another league to follow. And so that happened with the Europa League, learning about Pulisic being like, oh, they also sing You'll Never Walk Alone. It's a very working class community based team. And that's something that really appeals to me. I care less about trophies and more about how sports make me feel. And Dortmund make me feel week in and week out. Whether they make me feel good or make me feel bad,
They make you feel.
Yes.
Yeah, it's relatable.
And at the early stages of this fandom, I was like, am I going to be able to call myself a fan? I can call myself an admirer. And then the day that it really sunk its teeth into me was, I think, the 2017-18 season, maybe, November of that year, the 4-4 against Schalke. Dortmund goes up 4-0 in the first 25 minutes. Aubameyang scores a goal. I think Götze scores one. There's an own goal mixed in there. And then between the 65th minute and stoppage time, they blow it. Schalke equalizes.
Yes.
And at that point, Schalke was ahead of us in the table, which sounds crazy to say right now. And so I remember that game ending. I packed up my little dog in the car and drove to get me and my wife lunch or dinner or whatever time it was that day. And what happens to me when sports is really impacting me and I'm mad about something is my ears get hot, like that rush of blood to the head. And I was like,
I get that too.
And I was like, that game made my ears hot. I'm a Dortmund fan. I'm locked in. And then over the years, I've just continued to follow. And then again in 2020, when the Bundesliga is the first league to return back from COVID, and just seeing them once again against Schalke go out and bring football back into all of our lives, it created another emotional response. So now it's just like, yeah, for better or worse, they're kind of just part of my sports ecosystem in a way that is incredibly meaningful to me week in and week out.
Yeah, 100%. I think what you said there in terms of like how the club makes you feel is definitely what drew me into the club. Like, obviously, like, I feel like I've told this story on the pod before, but for me, it was, the fact that I have Polish heritage, and we had the Dortmund 3 of Łukasz Piszczek, Kuba Błaszczykowski, and Robert Lewandowski playing. And that was like what drew me in, but it was the feels that made me stay. And I'm sure Joey can attest to that as well. It's the overall ethos of the club that really does make you stay, and that what really makes it special.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's a bit of a strange addiction, this black and yellow
Addiction.
phenomenon, It's difficult not to just fall in love with this team, and I think there is appeal because they're always competing at the highest level, and I mean, if you look at the Bundesliga table, it might not always reflect that. But it's a team that's consistently in Champions League. They're in theory fighting for the Bundesliga title, if not achieving it very often. But there's something about this club that it's like there's a drive forward. They develop young, exciting players. It is a working class club. It allows us to kind of identify with it. And I mean, of course, the 50+1 can be applied to most clubs in the Bundesliga. But yeah, it's funny how we just sort of we come to love this club, and the more we watch, the more attractive it becomes, even through the chaos. It's like that cousin you don't really care for, or they can really get under your skin sometimes, but at the end of the day, you still love them, and you're still going to watch all of their matches every year. That was a weird analogy.
I think there are just
We're
so
keeping
many
it.
so many cultural things about the club and their supporters, boots on the ground in Dortmund, because
Yeah.
world football has become such this spread out thing where all these teams are looking globally. They want to have marketing in other countries so they can increase that revenue and compete on the largest stage. Obviously, the Premier League is out in front on all of this. Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona, they're all trying to get their tentacles into major media markets so that they can increase their revenue and spend hundreds of millions of dollars on overrated players. That's the name of the game. That's how we do it now. But the fans in Dortmund are the people that make it matter the most. The German fans in general, the way that they will protest ticket price rises, the way that they will protest sponsorship agreements that they don't agree about, the way they will protest things like banning safe standing or whatever it may be, and printing out giant emails on tifos and just not standing for things that don't go with the morals and ethics of the club. I think is special, and it's unique to this sport, but also very unique to German fans and Dortmund fans.
I think so too, and I mean I'll bring it up because it's in recent memory, but the Rheinmetall deal. I mean, I couldn't be more against that deal with Dortmund, but at the same
100%.
time, the fan response to it is why I still love the club. The fact that they're not embracing this, or the fact that Hans-Joachim Watzke was part of this movement a year or two ago to try to open up sponsorships and sell off 15% of all the clubs for that corporate money. And the fans, not just Dortmund fans, but I mean, Dortmund fans especially because Watzke is affiliated with us, but German fans as a whole came together and they said, no, we're not going to stand for this. And if anybody's been watching Bundesliga the last few seasons, remember all those tennis balls a couple of years ago that
For the
was it
Monday
like the-
matches?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was it. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that it's harmless. It's a pain in the ass, but it's harmless, and it worked. That's one of the points that they were resilient and no harm done. They made their point, and yeah, we're all better off for it. So we can thank the German fans for that.
100%. And I know this is a cliche, but I mean their whole like mantra of football as it's meant to be. I mean it rings true. This is football as it's meant to be in its purest form. Fans expressing what it is that they want from their clubs through the protest. Fun attacking football. You'd obviously want to see a little bit more differentiation in terms of the table every year, but I guess you can't have everything. But overall, I do think that the Bundesliga is, to me, the best example of what European football is. So to me, I'm just really happy to have found this club and to be part of that community. I don't remember, Joey, have you been to a Dortmund game as of yet? Or
Not yet, but it's
Not
going to
yet.
happen.
Right. What about you, Andy? Have you been yet?
I've not. It was on the agenda for this upcoming fall, but it had to get pushed off because I got laid off from work, but now I've got a new job. But it had to adjust the timeline a little bit. But I've been to reference my other mistress. I've been to Anfield 3 times, and so
Okay,
at this
fair
point,
play.
I'm craving getting to Dortmund to see a match there. I've watched all the influencers who go and tell their YouTube stories about that, and they just show the yellow wall and it's all of its majesty and its brilliance. I've rewatched highlights from the Champions League run from a few seasons ago a million times, and just being in that environment seems incredible. I don't think I can sit in the yellow wall though, because I'm probably going to drink like 4 or 5 beers while I'm
Yes.
there, and I need to find the bathroom in that case. I can't just stand the whole time.
Or have them dumped on you. That's the other
Yeah.
option. So
I should correct myself because I have seen Dortmund, just not in the Westfalenstadion. I did have the privilege of watching them defeat the Mamelodi Sundowns last summer in Cincinnati for the Club World Cup. So the only goal from Jude Bellingham we've seen so far. Or, I'm sorry, Job. But I know there's another one coming.
there definitely is. Well, the reason I bring it up is because we were talking about the ethos of the club, and what I kind of wanted to bring up was, if you go as an American fan, I feel like in some places in Europe you might get a little bit of pushback because people are very much, this is about like the local fans, which it is. But I have to say, like, my experience, because I've gone twice now. I have a buddy, shout out Dennis, who is a season ticket holder. Who's got me into the stadium, and I have been in the yellow wall and stuff like that. And just, I remember my first time there, and everyone was just so, I guess, like, more curious than anything about, like, why is someone from, like, the United States so interested in the club, but they were also so accepting. And that's what I love about this community. It is a very accepting community. I mean, I couldn't recommend it more for you guys. So, like, the minute you guys have the chance, please go.
That is one
it's
thing
awesome.
that I've assumed about it from the outside looking in, because I've done a UK football pilgrimage. I've gone to Wembley to see an FA Cup match. I saw Spurs at Wembley. I went to Sheffield United. I went to Fulham, Crystal Palace, Derby County. So many of these, Nottingham Forest. So many of these English league teams. And to your point, there's like a degree of skepticism when you're there. They're like, why is this guy interfering in my match day experience? Whereas at an MLS match back home, people are like, please, please, please like our club. If someone from
100%.
England or Germany came over, we would be so excited. And I've also noticed that kind of mentality and that sort of fan culture has translated to some of the American supporters groups, whereas the Bundesliga supporters groups, even in America, are incredibly welcoming, want to talk about the match, debate tactics, debate favorite players, least favorite players. There was so much infighting in American Premier League supporters groups that I've seen around here that it has that same toxic environment that you see on social media, or what I'm describing as being not really accepted as an American in those grounds. So it's very interesting that for some reason, I guess the culture that you put out into the community as fans on the ground can also translate to social media and how that culture travels to other areas. And for some reason, Dortmund just seems to have a culture of more positivity than I've experienced with some of like seeing. I had a friend who was in a local Chelsea supporters group here in North Carolina for a few years, and they had to split into two factions. He told me because they like two leaders emerged and hated one another. And you know, I can't really see that happening to Borussia Triangle, Joey.
I'm not sure we're quite big enough for that anyway, but. No, I think we're a good group of folks, slowly growing.
100%, 100%. Yeah, like we're saying, I feel like Dortmund is special. You know, when it comes to you know the ethos that it has. Like I said, within the European football community, but football as a whole, I feel like it's no matter where you would go, I think in comparison, Dortmund will always be a special ethos. But speaking of community and fan clubs and supporters groups, let's talk about your guys' supporters group. So I don't know who wants to go first, but I guess let's go with you, Andy. How did you find Borussia Triangle? How did you become a part of it? Let's talk about that, and then we could talk about more like the history of the fan club in itself.
Yeah, I can tell my little story and then turn it over to my fearless leader here. So Borussia Triangle found me is the best way I'll describe it. I think it was October 25th, the match against Cologne. I had gone to my local watering hole, the Boot Room, which is a soccer bar here in Durham, North Carolina that's been around for probably 5 or 6 years now. It started, I think, right after COVID, if I'm remembering that correctly. And I'd had a long week traveling for work, and I told my wife that on this Saturday, I just want to go sit at the bar and watch soccer all day. So I was like, you come, we'll have breakfast. They've got good breakfast there. I'll watch half the match. Then you can do the shopping for the week, and then come back, pick me up, and I'll sit here and drink beer and watch soccer for 4 hours. So she leaves at halftime, and then unbeknownst to me, we have to thank Bayern Munich a little bit for me finding Borussia Triangle, because one of our other members, our co-leader, I'll call him, Rob, his wife Zanita, who is a massive Bayern Munich fan, prodded him to go over and talk to me, sitting alone after my wife had left. She's like, it looks like he's rooting for Dortmund. Like, I can tell by the way he's reacting to things happening in this match. And it was a late 1-0 win, so there wasn't a lot happening, but she sensed it. And she saw it. She said, go talk to him, invite him over. So he did, and they showed me the Borussia Triangle WhatsApp group that we have now as well. And, been watching matches with them ever since. So it was, I was found by a very tall man from Brooklyn.
Shout out Rob, was it?
Yes, Rob.
Yep,
Shout out
yep.
Rob.
Shout out Rob. So yeah, Joey, how about you jump in now and tell us a little bit more about how the fan club itself was formed?
Yeah, sure. So it's probably a couple shout outs to be had through this story, but I mean, a lot of this just kind of came from my own desire to just like find a group of Dortmund fans in this region. And I live in Durham, and there wasn't a supporters group. I mean, I found a couple places online that said they show Dortmund games, but had not found like a group of like-minded fans. And what really kind of like, I guess I could say, got the idea in my head was one, going up to DC for the Champions League final a few years ago, because that was just a blast. I met up with a few of my fellow writers from Fear the Wall at the time. Also met Eli briefly before the bar reached its capacity. um, and it was just so much fun being with a group of people like that, because being not knowing a lot of people in your town who also are fans of this specific German soccer club, it's like, how do we all come together? So, um, if you all aren't familiar with, there's this little tournament that's taken place the last few years in Cary, North Carolina, nearby, called TST, creatively named the Soccer Tournament. But Dortmund has had not this year, but the 3 previous years, Dortmund had a squad there. And I mean, it wasn't like the first team that was coming to play in the 7v7 tournament. But we had guys like Santana, Grosskreutz, um, Roman Weidenfeller came, and some other, I don't want to say random, but like players from not Dortmund, but from like futsal and like professional arena soccer. And the I'd been doing some writing, both for BVB Buzz and for Fear the Wall. So I had a media pass, and at last year at the tournament, I just kind of decided I was going to go a little crazy with dressing up and wearing a Dortmund flag as a cape, and just sort of going crazy, because I figured if I showed this kind of enthusiasm, I'll at least maybe find some other local fans. And I don't know if I necessarily found what I was looking for in a group of people to start meeting up with and watching soccer, but I did attract the attention of some of the people who are working in the New York City office, I believe, from Borussia Dortmund. So the first shout out goes to Till, who really encouraged me to sort of start making the moves to create a fan club. He then got me in touch with Tilo, who anybody who's been to a lot of Dortmund related events is probably familiar with Tilo. He's I mean,
Shout
I
out
don't
to
know.
boy Tilo.
Yep. I don't know I can't remember his specific position, but he's essentially the liaison for all of the Dortmund fan clubs. And he set me on the right track, kind of gave me some instructions of like, this is what you need to do. You need X number of people, you need a venue, and I just started making moves from there. Found the boot room because I'd been there a couple times and really liked it. It seems like there's so much space there, and there's so many TVs that if there are a lot of games on, it seemed like it would be a good place that, like, if let's say there's 3 of us, they'll be able to put a TV on for us. Little did I know that more often than not, they would play Dortmund on the big screen, the projection screen. And the owners there are also fans of Dortmund. I mean, they've got stuff on the wall from, I don't know, probably 50 different clubs from across Europe and South America and Asia, all over the place. But there's very specifically, I remember them having a signed Dortmund Christian Pulisic jersey up on display within the restaurant, and that just made me think, okay, if that's the kind of jersey that they're gonna have in here, then they're probably going to be open to the idea of a fan club starting up. Um, and the first match that I watched there, I had just started, or the first Dortmund game I watched there, I guess trying to start this fan club. Um, I just kind of showed up with some flyers, and I was going to put them up on the walls, and figured I'd stick around, have a beer, and watch the game too. And happened to meet a couple of people. So shout out to Dietrich and Karen, who just happened to be there when I got there, because they had the time wrong for the Dortmund game by an hour, and so they'd already eaten their lunch. But I got chatting with them, and I was like, all right, that's already 3 right here. Um, it started with just trying to to do like the late Sunday games and the Top Spiel Saturday games to try to attract a few people, especially since the boot room didn't open or doesn't open until 10 a.m. But as we put up stickers in the bathrooms and put our flyers up and added people to the WhatsApp, it kind of seemed like every week or every couple weeks we were adding another person to the WhatsApp group. And I don't know, we're maybe at 15 or 16 now. And I mean, not everybody shows up every week, but we've got a good group. And then the folks from Dortmund too, they sent us this fun little, if you're listening, you're not going to see it, but if you're watching on YouTube, you will. It is the Brucian Triangle, our official fan club certificate of founding, and it's backdated to September 23rd, 2025, which is the first technically is that match that I watched with Karen and Dietrich, which was I'm not going to remember it. It was Champions League, and it was one of the first Champions League games of the season, and it was like a 4-1 win, something like that, or 5-2. I'm not sure. But now we are officially recognized by the club. Should also give one other shout out here to a really talented graphic artist I know named Cash Whitney. His design for Brucian Triangle, taking everything that essentially I had conjured up in my mind, but I'm terrible at drawing. And I sent all this stuff to him. He came back to me with a few different iterations of a logo. And now, if you're really curious, check it out on Instagram. Brucian Triangle is our fan club page. And it's a great logo with, it's got like a big oak tree for Rally. It's got the clock tower from Chapel Hill. And then the iconic Durham Lucky Strike water tower. But that Lucky Strike logo has been sort of switched out with the BVB logo because it fits well. And the other kind of cool thing is that because we are an officially recognized Borussia Dortmund fan club, that BVB logo in our club, like our fan club is an officially recognized Dortmund logo. And that's pretty cool. So yeah, shout out to Cash too. Anyway, I could probably keep talking about this, but I feel like I'm wearing my vocal cords thin now, so I'll pass it back over to you, Brian.
Yeah, we can give you a break. But no, I mean that's awesome, and I think that once again fits very much with, I guess, Dortmund's mantra as a whole. And I think it's important that we're able to have that community here and for that community to grow, because not only is that a space for us as fans to obviously express ourselves, share our ideas about the club and stuff like that, it brings more awareness and it helps it grow. So I think you're fighting the good fight. I think it's really awesome that you started it. And obviously it's brought Andy onto the pod for us.
It has.
So
And if I can say just one more thing about it,
For sure.
because we gave Robin Zanita that shout out too. One thing that is maybe a controversial take is that we have actually developed a pretty friendly relationship with the local Bayern Munich fan club, co-hosting some pretty exciting Der Klassiker events, and even the boot room pitched in and gave us a whole bunch of raffle items for the most recent Der Klassiker. And then we kind of teamed up this summer to bring out all the Germany fans for Germany watch parties, just to kind of boost both clubs. And while it's very frustrating to see Bayern Munich win so frequently when Dortmund struggles, it has also been very nice having that friendly relationship with these folks. And it's a good time. So whether you're a Bayern or Dortmund fan, you're still welcome with the Dortmund club.
I don't think it's that controversial. I mean, the media will try and push that as like the big rivalry when it's not. I guess, like, yes, it is the rivalry that, Der Klassiker and all of that. It is the competitive rivalry, but obviously it's not the historical one. Andy, I'm curious how you feel about that. How about you talk a little bit about your relationship with that rivalry?
Yeah, so it's interesting. And what I've So having real conversations with the people in the Munich group while we were watching Germany was very funny because most of the time I'm just like saying out of pocket things to them to make fun of their support of Munich. Like I yelled at them when they were harassing verbally Emre Can when we would soon learn he actually had an Achilles injury. And then I just, my big thing is like, this isn't real fandom. You have no pain in your life. Everything is a nail to you. It's really easy to support the hammer in that scenario when everything else is a nail. Like how do you experience joy? How does winning this over and over again still feel good to you? And then you go to lose to PSG. So that's kind of the aim I take, is to be like a little mischievous little rascal where I'm very warm and open to you, but also like I hate everything you stand for, and I want your club to lose as much as possible. Harry Kane, just watching him week in and week out, dropping in, acting like he's a 6 or a 10, and then scoring 40 goals wherever he scores. I really respect them, but I also have just a great disdain in my heart for everything Bayern Munich. So it's really tough for me to hold that back, even though all the people that we hang out with at the bar on a weekly basis are lovely human beings.
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, of course, like it is, like I said, it is the main competitive rivalry, so that makes total sense. And I feel like, for me, like I'm definitely on the same page as you with when it comes to that. But also, some of my best friends are Bayern fans, so you know what, it is what it is. At the end of the day, they're not Hernevest, they're not the Smurfs, so it doesn't really matter. It's I think that's the one that I'm more concerned with, and I'm actually very excited that they're back in the Bundesliga because those derbies are going to be very fun.
Oh yeah.
They shall not go named here, but yeah.
At least they're not Real Madrid fans.
Yeah, you know, count the little wins, right? Count the little wins.
Yep.
All right, guys. So let's actually get into some of the news going around the club, because I'm curious to hear what some of your takes on some of this stuff is, Andy. Actually, so let's start with the first bit of news that we're covering today, and that's Fenerbahce interest in Serhou Guirassy is not as concrete as other reports have previously suggested, and this is coming from Sky Sport via Patrick Berger. So Fenerbahce also not. Is also not his first choice when it comes to him leaving, and I believe the release clause is supposed to expire on July 15th. So what I wanted to ask you, and also you, Joey, because I know we've spoken about this, you know, ad nauseum, but we'll hear you out as well. How do we feel about Guirassy's potential exit, and you know, what are some of the alternatives, I guess, that you would suggest if Dortmund were to, for example, you know, see him go and this summer and have to replace him?
Yeah, I was a little disappointed by that reporting indicating that he might not be on the move, because I do think it is time. And it hasn't been that long, obviously. It's been 2 seasons, and he has that good first season, I think 38 goals in all comps, and then still the leading goal scorer, 17 goals in the Bundesliga last year. But that stat that he didn't score against a top 6 team or top half team in the league. I can't remember which one it was that Eli dropped a few weeks ago. So he's not getting it done against the best competition. Seems to be a little bit of a flat track bully. And the way I would always describe him is a ones and zeros player, where he's either scoring goals or you barely notice that he's out there, or he's wasting chances. He's not making runs into the channels to bend the defense. And I think they need a more well-rounded striker rather than just an old-school target man. That's how I view this situation. If he stays, I'm going to hope that he reverts back to the form that he showed at Stuttgart and in that first season. But he's 30 years old. You know, I say I'm allowed to say this because I'm 34, so his best years are probably behind him, and I think a move to Turkey or somewhere like that honestly would be best for both parties.
Do you have a player in mind that you'd like to see come in to replace him?
Actually, the man of the hour, Flo Balogun, who is allegedly available from Monaco, is someone that I'd be interested in, because he does do those little things. Clint Dempsey was doing some great breakdowns of his performances and the matches that actually did go well for the U.S., and they showed indicators of him always running and trying to create space and occupy the center backs. And that's something that I feel like Guirassy will do as a static player. I don't feel like his hold-up play is not even good enough to actually warrant him being that type of player. So a player like that, or invest that money in other areas. And honestly, this might sound crazy, I don't mind seeing Maxey get some run at starting 9. Like, he doesn't have to be a winger or a wingback or a Swiss Army knife. We can let Maxey run into those channels and create a little havoc. Although I would like at least some investment in that position, and getting a player in their prime like Balogun, and obviously, he's his nationality is very, very nuanced, but it'd be another U.S. national coming back to Dortmund as we see one going out. So, we'll see how it goes.
Joey, what are your thoughts on a Balogun?
That's actually a decent shout, I think, because he does have a lot of those qualities that Andy just mentioned, and he's also likely affordable. The other one that feels like a potentially obvious choice is probably Asllani. I don't know if obvious is the right word, maybe the realistic choice, because there's already that connection with Book. There's been a lot of links between Dortmund and Asllani for a while. I'm a bit disappointed by this reporting as well, because listeners of the podcast know that I do think it's time for us to move on from Serhou Guirassy. I just don't. I mean, with the kind of wages he's on, if he's going to be our starting number 9 next season, I just don't really see that playing out very positively. But if we're gonna switch to a little bit more wing play, I would love to see Maxi Bayer play as a 9, because that's what he did at Hoffenheim, and he did it quite well at Hoffenheim. So I'd love to see him potentially develop a little bit more in that sense, and maybe put on another 15-20 pounds of muscle in the process. So that's hopefully someone else comes for Guirassy, or I don't know. I was hopeful with Fenerbahce.
Listeners of the pod will know I am Maxi Bayer's #1 fan, so you don't have to twist my arm with that one. But yeah, just to keep it short and sweet, I agree with you guys. I think it's time to move on. A shout that I've been mentioning for a while now is Tresoldi. I think he'd be a fantastic addition. Both the age profile and what he's done with his current club are quite exceptional. So I think that'd be a good shout too. But Balogun is an interesting shout. I think from what I was seeing, I mean, there were some vague reports that we were interested. But like the price is around 50 million euros. So
maybe not affordable then.
I was gonna say Dortmund would have to. I don't know. So those 11. So all the things that they all the improvements they made to the kitchen last season, the 11 million euro on top of some other sales to afford that one. So I don't know.
Can there be a discount for him being unwittingly turned into a political prop by the powers that be in world football? Like, can we get a discount?
I mean, that may end up harming his overall value just for the potential political risk.
But now Dortmund supporters can embrace him and say, "This wasn't your fault. This isn't about you.
Yep,
You're here now."
Fault.
Exactly.
It wasn't at all.
Not at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be mad seeing Balogun. I think that'd be an interesting shot for sure. All right, moving on. Another player that's had, I guess, a bit of a mixed time at Dortmund, and there's, I guess, from what I've seen online, fairly divided opinions about him. Well, he's not a Dortmund player anymore because he moved to Lyon, and that's Julian Duranville. I was curious what you guys thought about that move to Lyon, and whether Dortmund might have possibly, maybe not given up on the player a little bit too soon, or was there just no space for him in the squad, or what are your guys' thoughts on the move?
I think they definitely sold low on him, obviously, because of just the lack of an impact he's made at Dortmund and on the loan spell to Basel. I think the injury during the Club World Cup really set back his career at Dortmund and prevented him from really having a chance to stand out. And then the loan to Basel this year, I think he scored 2 goals and didn't really make any noise. He's only 20, so he's still a young player that can develop. So maybe they gave up a little bit too soon, but I mean, I felt like I was getting a little ahead of my skis and talking about just giving Maxi Bayer the starting striker role, which is something I would be comfortable doing. Finding minutes for a 20-year-old who hasn't proven himself in a season where maybe you're selling Garassi and bringing in replacement and things of that. I just don't know where the game time was going to come for him. And yeah, I think it's more bad luck than anything with that injury and him not panning out. Obviously, it was a January move from Anderlecht when he came in, so there was some weird timing around when he even started his Dortmund career. So
He was also injured when he came in.
yeah, that as well. So I think I don't blame the player. Just it's a situation of bad fortune throughout his time here.
No, I mean, I think Andy said it or summed it up pretty well. I mean, a lot of bad luck around Duranville. I think in some ways this is Dortmund mitigating risk a bit and kind of cutting their losses.
Right.
I mean, bringing Duranville in was kind of a long-term project, big investment, and those injuries have seemed to derail it every time he was beginning to get some momentum. So in some ways I feel like the player needs a fresh start too. And
100%.
at 20 years old, he's still able to get that fresh start. He's still got tons of development ahead of him, and maybe being somewhere that not being contractually obligated to Dortmund, maybe that'll help him achieve a little bit of success down the road. So yeah, really just an unfortunate one because I did like Juju and I thought he was gonna break out a couple seasons ago.
I think one of the key things you guys pointed out was the minutes, and considering we don't really play with wingers right now as is, kind of like what you were saying, Andy. I don't know where the minutes would have come from, but yeah, I think it's unfortunate. I think he's unlucky. Yeah, I wish him the best in Lyon. I think that's
For
a
sure.
pretty good move for him. I mean, we know the French league is a very good developmental league, so I think if he's going to succeed anywhere, I think that's a good shout. So, yeah, I think I'll be watching a little bit of Lyon's games just to see how he's doing because I don't know whether we have a buyback or a sell on. We have something, I'm pretty sure. So be curious to see, if down the line, if his development continues to go in like a positive way, whether or not either we see him again or, we might get a little bit of like a financial boon from him moving on eventually from Lyon, because if he does pop off, that's likely what's going to happen. Speaking of another attacker, Karim Adeyemi seems to be shopping around for a new club if Sport Bild is to be believed. But apparently he's not really having as much luck as he thought he would in terms of finding a new club, because none of them have apparently really shown concrete interest. So with regards to this, I was going to ask you guys how you feel about that. Like, do you think that it would make sense for Dortmund to allow Adeyemi to find a new club at this point in time? Do you think they should keep trying to push for like a new contract? Because I believe his contract expires in 2027 because you do have the financial risk of him leaving on a free. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Like, I guess a little bit of like summer drama with Adeyemi and him possibly leaving.
I think I'd approach this the same way they approached Slaughterbeck, just without the release clause situation that may or may not exist, or for how many clubs.
Yeah.
I think you extend him with the intention of going into this season and seeing if you can kind of wipe the slate clean and get back to the world of promise from a few seasons ago and see what happens. And with the full understanding that, if you really pop off and we can get a great return on investment for you in the next summer with a bigger club, like we will make that happen for you. I think if he's not finding what he wants to find on the market, I just don't think you should sell low on another player. We're going to talk about a player in a bit who they're definitely loaning or selling low on. Don't do it with Adeyemi too. I don't think there's anyone else in the squad that can bring the dynamism that he can bring as that inverted wing player on the right side, and so he can still be a very valuable player. I know he's been frustrating. The goal contributions haven't been what we necessarily think they should be, but I don't know. I think he can still help this team win matches. So I wouldn't just sell low. I'd try and extend him, and then hopefully he has that big takeoff season this year.
100%.
Yeah, I wish I understood a bit better what the dilemma is in his contract negotiations with Dortmund, because I think I've read a couple places that it seems like he maybe wants a little bit more salary than Dortmund's willing to offer. You know, not really able to come to an agreement on the conditions of it. But I mean, this is like Andy said. There's a bit of dynamism there that I don't think anybody else in the club really has right now, and um, almost like a little bit of an X factor. And I mean, I know he didn't make the World Cup team, but I mean, half the players on that squad probably shouldn't have been there.
Right.
Um, but I mean, with Adeyemi, this is really not a player who we want to let go on a free transfer at the end of next season. Um, it, if there is no breakthrough or intent, like if the club doesn't see a future for him, then we need to sell.
Yeah.
I think there could be a future for him. I hope there is a future for him. I do think we need a bit more consistency, but if he stays fit, I don't know. I think it's a really tough one because there were phases through last season where I was questioning why Kovac wasn't playing Adeyemi more when I thought he could make a difference, and maybe there are some off-field issues that we don't really understand or are a bit more nuanced. Um, but I mean we can't let this guy go for free.
Yeah,
That sounds terrible saying it.
Yeah.
The those words in a row, but I don't know, and I really do think like he brings speed that a lot of guys just don't have, and I mean he probably only has a few more years of that. But that doesn't mean he's a bad player. And let's say we sign him for 3 more years, and in a year and a half or 2 years he does want to transfer. This is a guy who's still going to command a reasonable transfer fee. Maybe it's not an 80 million euro transfer fee, but he's still going to be valuable even if he's on poor form. So I don't know. The financials of letting a player like that go without bringing in a transfer fee could really hurt the club.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if there's no intention to sign to a new contract, I think cutting ties would probably be the most financially reasonable thing. But it would be a shame because this is a player that, to my understanding, has said he's a Dortmund fan. He wants to be here, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, there's been some like mixed reports with regards to his partner Loredana or whatever, and all. I don't want to get into the media gossip because there's no point. But on the face of it, it does seem like this is a player that has wanted to be here, and that genuinely cares for the club. So, it would be a shame to see him go. But then, of course, when you hear things like this, where he's like shopping around and stuff, then that obviously sours that image a little bit, So
it is sport build, so
exactly.
Grain of salt.
That's the thing. You got to take that with a grain of salt. So, definitely something to keep in mind. If he were to leave, same question as with the Guirassy one. Do you guys have any shouts for who we should bring in if he does leave? Because we would have to replace him. That's not a player you just see leave the club and then don't replace.
Ooh, that's a good question. I do have questions about his market right now, because if it's down to the World Cup is blocking everything and things are getting slowed down because of that, we're seeing things trickle through. But like, is he a guy that's a backup option for other clubs that don't get their main guy? In terms of wingers that could replace him, I got nothing right now. Joey, do you want to go first, and then I'll go down my foot mob and see who I'm thinking?
I mean, the only one that comes to mind, and I'm not even sure that he's a winger, is Mom Zombie. But is that his name?
Johan Manzambi.
Yeah. But there's no way though. Like, he's going to be way too expensive wherever he ends up going.
He's a central midfielder. I believe he can play on the wing, so I don't know if we'd be bringing him to replace Adeyemi. But I mean, how many times have I mentioned in the group chat that I want that guy to join Dortmund?
Yeah, he's impressed me in the World Cup. That's why I'm thinking about him.
Okay, I've got mine that they'll never get.
Go on.
Syed El Mala from Köln.
Okay.
I think that would work for me. He's 19 years old. He's been rumored on hot name lists. A lot of people are wondering if Liverpool would pivot from him after getting rejected by Jan Diomande. So I'll add that and say it, so now I can be disappointed when it doesn't happen.
The name that comes to mind for me is the one that you guys actually discussed during the How to Fix, Joey, and that's Micah Götze. I don't know how to pronounce that exactly. But his 30-plus goal contributions for Ajax this season have impressed me. I think he's a very interesting player, and I think that would be the type of player that I'd like to see Dortmund go for. Elimala also fits into that category of very exciting young player. That's kind of what Adeyemi was when he joined. I don't remember, was he 20 years old when he joined Dortmund from Salzburg or something like that?
Something like that, and he had just had a pretty stellar season at Salzburg. Kind of had a similar, the Erling Haaland route, Salzburg to Dortmund.
Yeah, exactly. So I think going a similar route for a player you can have multiple years of good performances from, I think that's definitely the route to go. So I think either would be fantastic additions. Moving on, I think you were alluding to this, Andy. We're going to talk a little bit about Yan Couto, who is apparently joining Como in Italy. So he'll be playing under Cesc Fabregas moving forward. I believe since I put together these notes, it's been confirmed by Romano and by Sky Sports that he is moving, and that there is a a potential buy clause of about 20 million euros. That if they want to keep him, that's what they have to pay. So what are your guys' thoughts on this move?
I think this is just an indicator of some bad business by Sebastian Kehl a year or so ago. $30 million after his loan spell, and then he's pretty much nailed on as a backup because Julian Ryerson is undroppable. So now that he's being loaned out to Como because there's no minutes for him, I think it makes sense, although I'm struggling to think who necessarily is a viable backup on the squad.
Reggiani, maybe?
Yeah, maybe he can slot out wide. That's a good shout. I don't know. Just I'm fine moving on from him, but I think it was just bad business from the start. And if you're taking a 10 million euro loss on him if they do trigger that option to buy at the end of this. So, oh well, I guess it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, like Andy said, I do think it's indicative of not the best deal making from Sebastian Kehl. But from a different perspective, from Yan Couto's perspective, I think this is a very good move. I mean, Cesc Fabregas certainly knows what he's doing as a rookie manager, and I mean, Como's, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Como's going to be in Champions League this season, I think.
I believe so.
And he brought them up from the second division, so that's, I mean, a club that is overperforming. And if we think about where Yan Couto came from before Dortmund, it was Bologna, which was also a club that was overperforming in that season. So I do think that, maybe Cesc Fabregas looks at that and says, that's a player who I can potentially use to grind out a result, and might not necessarily be the player that Dortmund needs to grind out the win or to really push for a title charge. Because I'm sure at Como, the goal of the season is essentially going to be stay in European contention, and anything in the Champions League is a bonus. So I think from Yan Couto's perspective, it's a good deal, and we at least make a little bit of that money back if he has a good season. And if he doesn't, then, well, we're going to be talking about this again next summer.
I mean, let's hope for all parties' sake that he's able to perform well there, and that they're willing to take a punt on him. But two confirmations. So yes, they will be playing Champions League, and I believe the club that he came from was Girona in Spain.
Girona, not Bologna.
Just wanted to
get that rhyming. Yeah. Appreciate that.
But yeah, I totally agree. It's actually funny because when I saw the 20 million fee, I almost felt kind of relieved because I thought he might go for less, unfortunately. And it's sad to say because when he signed, I was actually really happy because Dortmund obviously have a very rich tradition of having Brazilian players that do well at the club. And in the back of my mind, I was like, well, maybe this is the next one. And I guess we haven't had that great luck with that, especially considering the Renier loan from Real Madrid.
Man, I forgot about Renier.
Yeah,
Oof.
I did too until just now, but I decided to bring the mood down completely and bring him up. But it's interesting to me because I still do like the player and I like what he brings. I think he can be very dynamic, very attacking minded, and I think for certain games, having that is important and it's quite good. He gives me like winger vibes more than anything, honestly, and I feel like if we'd seen him maybe play more in a winger role, we might have seen a little bit more positives from him. It's almost a little similar to the Rafael Guerrero situation where we had him playing fullback and he was decent there, obviously far more decent than Couto was. But we put him into another position in central midfield and he just absolutely takes off in that final season and is just playing the season of his life basically at Dortmund. So it's just like it's a little bit of like a what could have been situation for me, but I just think like and I feel like I'm beating a dead horse by saying this, it's the physicality of the league. I think it just punished Couto so much, and every single time he would be on the pitch, I feel like teams would target him and he'd end up being a liability, because of that. So wish him all the best, and hopefully, we can all come away from this transfer in a better position by year's end or season's end next year. Moving on, and we'll keep this one brief unless you guys have anything in particular to say. According to The Athletic, we're interested in Mikey Moore on loan. Do you guys have any opinions on this at all?
7 goals in the Scottish Premiership last year, and doing some cursory research, he was 94th percentile for successful dribbles, but 50 or 49.3 percentile for successful dribbles. So it seems like he's a winger that likes to take guys on, and the success or not success of that is about 50-50. So maybe they want a dribbly boy to come in and create some pattern and interruption on the wings. He's only, I think, 18 or 19, so don't know much about him other than the football data.
I mean, at least makes him sound brave if he's willing to have regular take-ons. I don't know a whole lot about the player, but I do think we could use a couple of really promising youngsters who can elevate the team. Like we need some youth, and that's one of the things I've always loved about Dortmund and has felt like something we've been lacking the last few seasons. Shout out to our Italian boys, though.
I like the move if we get to keep him. I don't like the straight loan. I think that's the biggest problem for this bit of news for me. So I'm hoping that if we do get him, it's on a permanent, or at least with a decent option to buy, so at least we can make that decision at the end of the season, and like a more informed decision. I mean. But to round it out, we're going to talk about 2 Americans, actually. The first being Mathis Albert. He's supposed to complete preseason with the first team, and he's going to go on tour with Dortmund to Japan, which I believe they should be going somewhat... I think it's right after the World Cup. I don't know exactly when it is, but they should be going pretty soon after the World Cup, so that's exciting for the youngster. What I wanted to ask about this was... because we did see his debut last season. We saw the likes of Samuel Ignacio, Luca Reggiani have some minutes as well. Where do you guys see a player like Albert or Ignacio or any of these young players, fitting in? And with Albert in particular, considering he is one of the premier U.S. talents now, up and coming, how excited are you guys about him specifically and what he could bring to this Dortmund team?
I think he's an example of what we can be excited about in some areas of U.S. soccer development, because we don't have a lot of those stories. I mean, he breaks Gio Reyna's age records, 16 years and 340 days when he makes his debut. That's just crazy. Born in South Carolina, so kind of in the same area that I'm in, and not necessarily thought of as a soccer hotbed. And he's coming out now in talks to be maybe potential contributor with Borussia Dortmund's first team. Obviously, he might get more time with Borussia Dortmund too as well. But I think with him and Ignacio and Reggiani, guys like that, Dortmund can and needs to be operating on two different timelines. It's the developmental projects and guys who are going to develop, see if they get into the first team and sell them at their peak, and the guys in the prime years that are helping you win now. And I think you mesh those two things together, get those guys minutes in the Pokal and things like that, and I think that's how you have a fully functioning Borussia Dortmund ecosystem. So really happy for the kid, and he doesn't at all make me feel old.
I'm in that boat with you. I feel you.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about how Dortmund don't have any players my age or younger anymore. See, I always had I had Mats Hummels and Marco Reus for most of my Dortmund fan life, where I could always say, all right, I still have a couple guys who are older than me, and well, then they left. And Pascal Gross came in, and I was like, all right, we're the same age. This still counts. But now time's not working in my favor anymore. Unless we bring in a 36-year-old and I can be like, hey, I'm still younger than somebody. I'm going to probably try to temper my expectations for Mathis Albert this season. I mean, as a U.S. fan, I would love to see him make a huge impact, and I don't want to say be the next Christian Pulisic, be the next Christian Pulisic for Dortmund, as in the next American player who does things. And I think we started to see that with Reyna. It tapered off, kind of fizzled out a little bit. He still had a role to play, I guess, but it wasn't really a significant role for Dortmund, and not one that I would want to see an American player. But also, like, thinking about the guys who are with the first team for the Japan tour, it's pretty doubtful to me that any of the guys who are at the World Cup, who have been competing at the World Cup, are going to be part of this tour. I think it's pretty normal that the players on the team that go to the World Cup are not present for part of that preseason because they need to rest. These guys they need time for their bodies to recover from the World Cup so they can prepare for the season. But that also opens up a lot of these positions to the younger guys for more practice, for these preseason friendlies as part of the first team. And I fully expect both Reggiani and Samuele Inacio to make an impact this season. My impression, especially with Book coming in, is that when we look at what depth this team has, we need to look at what youth players we have, or the young guys who can fill some of those roles. So if Jan Couto leaves and he's already the backup, well, we've got a young 19-year-old player who can slot in and do it fairly well. And I'm hoping that Albert is one of those. I don't really expect that we're going to see him too much in the first half of the season, but assuming his development continues well, playing with I assume the U23s or the U21s, then I would expect the back half of the season we'd start to see him get a few more minutes. Not as late as this past season. I mean, this past season it was kind of like there wasn't a whole lot to play for anymore other than pride and trying some new things. Yeah. So I do think we'll maybe see him a bit earlier, and who knows? I mean, maybe he'll be a regular on the bench in the second half of the season. But either way, I think his development has seemed pretty positive in this last year. So I'm optimistic for his future in the next few years.
I would say I'm optimistic too. But at the core of it, I'm just happy that, we have a batch of young players in Albert and Inacio and Reggiani, etc., that, seem like they might actually make the breakthrough, because I feel like that's one thing that we just haven't had for like the longest time. And that's the biggest thing for me. So I'm just excited for that.
I mean, we thought Cole Campbell was going to do it. We thought Kel Vatjen, Tom Rotha, all guys who I've fully expected were going to break into the first team, and it just didn't quite work out.
Yeah, I mean, in particular, I believe Kovac is supposed to give him a chance during preseason and early part of the season
Oh,
to
yeah,
break into that
he's
midfield.
back from loan, isn't he?
He is, so that
Hey,
could
we'll
be
see what
interesting as well.
happens.
Yeah, 100%. But you actually mentioned the last guy we're going to talk about today, and that's Cole Campbell leaving for Elversberg. It's official now. Well, not official by the club. Well, I'm not sure if it's official by the club. I know that Patrick Berger was talking about it, and Sky Sport were pretty
Hmm.
much saying that's a done and dusted deal. So Book and the club are sending Campbell with, I believe it's a buyback clause as well, to his former club. How do you guys feel about that?
I think that's good business. I think Book is coming
Yeah.
in, seeing that there's no opportunity for this guy here, and
Yeah.
sending him to a place, kind of doing his old club a favor, and then also sending him to a place where that he knows is a good infrastructure for development. And then
Mhm.
if Cole Campbell does develop into something that Dortmund want in the future, they can buy him back. So I think job well done there. That's how you should use kind of your connections in the football world to do right by players and also, keep it in your back pocket for yourself.
100%. Joey?
I totally agree, and I'm really happy that he's going to be staying in the Bundesliga, and not dropping down a division.
Mhm.
So that's, important to me just for his own development. And like Andy said, if Book thinks that there's a place where he could develop, then I think that's the right move.
100%. And it'll be good to see him at a club where I think he'll get more minutes because his
Mm-hmm.
at Hoffenheim
100%.
was he barely played, so we didn't even get to see him get a chance. So I'm excited to see what he can do there. Wishing him all the best. It's interesting because he kind of like what you guys mentioned. He was one of those players that we did think would break through. And I remember it was him and Paris Brunner both were seen as the two like most exciting like attacking like talents of that like group
Oh,
that
Paris
were
Bruner.
yeah blast from
Forgot
the
about him
past.
too.
Yeah. But yeah, so wishing Cole Campbell all the best, and hopefully he
Hmm.
can show what he can do at Elversberg, and you never know, we might see him in a Dortmund jersey again one day. Um, but that will wrap for us, guys. Andy, once again, I want to thank you very much for joining us on the show. It's been a pleasure, fantastic meeting you. Hopefully, we can have you on again sometime. I wanted to ask, is there anything you would like to plug at the end of this episode for people to check out where they can find you and stuff like that?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. This was a blast. Love talking Dortmund. I am one of the co-hosts of a podcast called The Crown Cast. Our fearless leader there, named Logan, started this podcast in 2022 during their inception. So the first year that Charlotte started, I've been on for the last year and a half or so, and we do weekly episodes about big picture Charlotte FC stuff, and then Logan with a rotating cast of fans and other podcasters does every Saturday night a post-match for every league game. So we got post-match recaps and then just big picture episodes. So I'm not really on social media anywhere else. So if you're MLS curious, follow the Crowncast wherever podcasts can be found. And thanks to you guys for having me. It was a really great time.
Of course. Fantastic having you, like I said earlier. And yeah, hopefully we can have you on again. And as you guys heard, follow that pod. I'll definitely be checking it out myself. So it'll be good to hear. Joey, do you have anything to plug yourself?
Not today, just check out the Crowncast and support Andy and support Charlotte FC. It's our local-ish club.
100%, 100%. Well, thank you again, guys, once again. And yeah, we'll catch you guys next time on our next episode. Thank you to all our listeners, and yeah, see you guys next week.